We have Michelle Williams, Chief Information Officer at the City of Culver City. We have Anna Burton, Emergency Management Coordinator, City of Los Angeles Harbor Department of Ports Police. And we have Shadeequa Smith, who is part Fuse Corps and part LA County Probation. And hopefully soon we'll have Mark Henderson, who is the City of Gardena. Nice to welcome you all. I must admit, this is a very interesting panel because what we're trying to do with this event is, okay, have a few presentations from people who are talking about AI and exactly what it's going to do for us. But a lot of the security community and a lot of the IT community is still at that stage to say, well, hang on a minute, what am I going to do with this anyway? What do you want me to do? So I thought it'd be a nice question just to start off, to set the scene. Michelle, how has COVID, the last 8 months affected your work, and has it promoted a need for automation?
Oh, yes. So the last few months have been pretty challenging for us. We typically did not have a culture of telecommuting, but of course with COVID, we were forced into that. I am thankful that from an IT perspective, we did have the infrastructure in place to support telecommuting, but of course, just spinning that up, in emergency mode was a heavy lift. And so certainly that has changed. And then how we interact with the public has completely changed as well. We were already in a mode of advancing online services and making, our online presence more transactional so that folks could interact with us. But, certainly in a COVID pandemic, we certainly had to ramp that up even more so. And we also had to rethink how we did some of our services, things like on-site inspections. We moved towards doing that through using Skype, using iPhones and iPads. So we just had to kind of rethink how we were doing things as well.
I like it, rethinking and restructuring. Anna, what about for you? Can you paint a picture of how everything's changed for you?
Well, I think some of the same things can be echoed for our department. Is that while I'm in the Port Police office, our sworn officers have been working, relentlessly throughout everything we've seen. But from our civilian standpoint, we're at a 50% telecommute rate. So one of the first things we did have to do was develop a pandemic plan, and as well as now a reconstitution plan to look at exactly how will we, address these new challenges with our employees. Did they have the equipment they need? And I'll apologize if I drop off. I'll have to go to a different device to make sure that I stay connected. But it's looking at what are the policies now for broad scale telecommuting for our staff, and it goes back to the previous panel with it was always a huge concern for the cybersecurity element. What kind of security do our individuals need now at home? Do they have the Wi-Fi that's needed? What equipment do we need to get when equipment was quickly unavailable, right? And so now we have family members who are at home. We have employees who are at home, as well as their children going to school, using the same connectivity, the same Wi-Fi. So the security element to ensure they have connections to our backbone of systems at the port and the harbor department, which is the City of Los Angeles. It's sometimes, it's the challenge of making sure they have what they need, but we have the protection that we need.
Fantastic. I think your video was just breaking up there, Anna. But no, I think we got that. Shadeequa, what about you? Could you tell us a bit about your work, and then you can elaborate on how it's changed over the last few months?
Yes, well, the same thing that both Anna and Michelle talked about with the issues with telecommuting and the probation department determining who can telecommute and making sure that they have the equipment that they need to telecommute. But for me specifically, as a Fuse fellow working with the organization, I was already set up to work from home. And I spent a few days in the office, a few days at home. but most of my work was out in the community. So for me, having to convert my community engagement work to all virtual because I can't be in contact with people and we can't gather in large groups was the biggest change in the work that I do. And just for the first, I would say, month or so, trying to figure out how we can do all of the things that we used to do in person virtually was a bit of a transition for us. But I would say that switching to virtual has actually increased my work and to some degree improved the amount of people who I can make contact with. So it has been a bit of a blessing for my work in particular. And now the probation department is kind of reconsidering people in the past who they thought might not be able to work at home, now being able to telecommute.
I like it. And hopefully this will be really, really valuable, especially if you're in the probation system. Mark, welcome. How are you doing? I thought I'd put the same question to you. Has this lockdown promoted automation anywhere? You know, how has this lockdown been for you, and has it led to a need for automation?
Good morning, all. I think I will say what Ms. Smith said. On my personal job, it's allowed me to be a little bit more productive because I can cover more ground because now everybody's in one place to take care of things. So my day job, for those that don't know, I'm a regional manager in the IT manager in the Los Angeles Community College District. So that function in higher ed has really been different as far as automation goes, because a lot of the things that we did on campus, we can no longer do. And so the challenge has been to create that same educational experience in a remote manner, which has been difficult because, as you know, some disciplines require actually hands-on activities, nursing, culinary arts, industrial technology, different things like that. So those things have been a challenge, but everywhere else where we can automate, automation has been helpful in relationship to conducting class online. But now this has also brought up challenges because, as we all know, not everybody was so inclined to have all the resources available to make sure they can have the same exact experience. Where we've come to understand that not just students not having any technology, but a lot of our employees and staff not having a lot of technology available. So now their jobs have gotten a little bit harder because they don't have all the resources available at home so they can do the work. And then now my part-time job as a councilman in the city of Gardena, our services, community services have been impacted because although we have some things we automate, if there's a community problem or community issue, we have the community do it through a remote application and we try to respond. In that sense, it's changed because it alienates part of the community that aren't tech savvy. So automation is great for some, but for others, it's become a barrier. And it all depends, and not necessarily an age group, but just in the fundamental understanding of automation and technology and things you just do differently. So on a city level, it's impacted us greatly. Automation has been great for us on our end, collecting data and different things like that. But it's the community, I won't say has rejected it, but they don't like a lot of the automation that they're doing. Folks still like to go to City Hall and still like to call and still want to talk to somebody face to face. So automation, where it makes sense, we try to do it, but automation is still one of those discussions that has to be a balance. We can't fully automate. I mean, you can automate your systems on the back end and reporting mechanisms and different things like that, but things that have a community component, a service component, a social enterprise component, automation may not always be the best tool because in some of the areas that we all work in, we have to deal with the people. And then as we spoke about it yesterday, automation also has an impact on a lot of our jobs and job classifications. And because a lot of our organizations have a lot of collective bargaining agreements, that's a whole separate discussion on what automation does to those that are working in some of these roles.
I like it, and we will return to the, are we going to end up with robot colleagues type of thing?
The days are getting longer. Let me say that the days have gotten longer for sure. 7 to 7 every day now for sure.
Definitely, definitely. Well, Michelle, then, what is the main place for automation, especially in the public sector? We've talked with Shadeequa's work about workflow, and I think Mark and Anna were talking about risk assessment. Where is it most applicable?
Oh, I think there are a number of areas where it's most applicable, but I think the challenge for us is really identifying the right technology for the right process, and then also making sure that we really are certainly cities have always been challenged with regard to resources, and even now, certainly in the midst of this pandemic, we're seeing a number of cities with great budget deficits, and I don't see that turning around real soon. And so, now as we start to look at implementing technology and automation in areas where we didn't have it before, I think there's just a greater challenge and a greater responsibility to make sure that those dollars are spent wisely. And certainly, I know there was mention of security earlier, and I totally agree with the charge with making sure that we secure our infrastructure. Cities have been hit hard over the last year and a half with regard to many breaches that we've seen throughout our nation. And certainly, now that we have an even more extensive remote workforce, that opens us up for even more vulnerabilities. And I think making sure that we, secure, infrastructure, secure our processes to every degree possible, I think that's going to be one of the major challenges. And I think automation can help in that area, as and panelists even spoke about security, AI, using AI to detect breaches, to detect things that look abnormal, or the anomalies, occurring on your network. And so I think that's probably one case where I can definitely see, from the technology standpoint, where there would be enhancement.
And so Michelle, is it a myth that people come knocking on doors and say, please use my wonderful automated solution, and they don't consider the environment that maybe the public sector's in? Is that an urban myth, or does it happen?
No, I think it's reality. And not only do they knock on, the door of the IT folks, they knock on doors of, the department heads, specific departments directly, right? And then you end up with things like rogue IT, where unfortunately, due to, cloud solutions and things that you can stand up without, let's say, without the approval of technology, the technology.
I like it.
About it. And that presents a number of issues as well, from a support issue and even security and interfacing with other systems. So, I think it's a reality.
Great. Anna, are you still there? Can you hear us?
I am trying system failure.
Audio is fine in this case, then that's not a problem. So what about for you? Where is the main place automation could actually add value in your work? We're assuming it can add value, right? So but where?
For the Port of Los Angeles in general, we've had huge success with automation with moving our containers. The economic value that the port provides to the country is extreme. So over the years, we have been doing everything we can to go green, to use automation to move the containers on and off the vessels onto, the intermodal transportation system. And that's hugely successful. Internally, I think some of the automation with, our law enforcement partners has been huge from the Homeland Security perspective and the basic law enforcement. But I think from the employee perspective, it's, teaching our employees the value of tools, because I don't think, and I think my other public partners will agree, is we're never going to go backwards. I've heard colleagues say, we're never going to be 100% where we come back and have all employees back in the buildings. I think through, just sheer virtue of the situation we've been handling, we as an employee base have proved that we can successfully work remotely. So how we move forward, I think there will be savings from the government perspective, and enhanced value of how we do business in this new realm of not having to come to work, making sure we're much more conscientious of social distancing, and using the remote tools that, the technology companies are fast tracking how they can provide us tools to do our jobs better. I think we're all getting inundated with, have you used this tool? Can we offer you this tool? And we're taking advantage of those.
So what would be a better approach if someone wanted to come to the Port of LA to help, as a vendor? Is there a better approach in this climate?
Yeah, from the city of Los Angeles, we have a contracting system, is a virtual contracting system. And all of our, anyone who wants to either bid or see what bids are coming out, they have to register through that. So that's the Business Area Virtual Network in Los Angeles. And that's really the way to go. They can, register to get agendas for our various public board meetings, city council meetings. We're one of, 3 large proprietary departments, but the city has 40 plus departments and commissions. So they have to use that bobbin system in order to get the contracting to ensure there's fair and transparent procurement in the city.
I like it, and this is one of the advantages of bringing, what is ostensibly an ICA type event over, to the virtual format in Denver. Shadeequa, you mentioned on the pre-conference call you had a very interesting case study in risk assessment. Could you tell us a bit more about it?
Yes. So LA County Probation, in partnership with the LA Superior Court, is working on a pilot project where they're utilizing new risk assessment tools. And this wasn't done because of SB 10, but it was very timely in terms of SB 10, which is now Proposition 25, that will be on the California ballot to see whether or not cash bail will be abolished in California. And one of the risk assessment tools that we're using during the pilot is an automated risk assessment tool that allows for information to be automatically pulled from different criminal justice databases once a person is booked into the system. And then that risk assessment tool will be utilized to help the judge make a determination about whether or not a person should be released pending trial. And I heard one of the panelists earlier talk about how certain organizations, if you will call their information proprietary, and so they don't divulge, the coding or anything like that. The one benefit of this particular tool is that it's public domain, and they share how they come up with their calculations and everything, which is a whole separate conversation when we talk about risk assessment tools, because they're not exactly trusted. And for some people in the public, the idea that a risk assessment tool can be automated is very scary and very controversial. But we've been working with that tool since just before COVID locked everything down, and it may or may not have influenced whether or not people have been released.
Okay, no, well, that's certainly important, especially in the current climate. And you must have had quite a lot on your plate at the moment. So I think everyone can appreciate the work that you do. Mark, then, you mentioned before collective bargaining and the challenges. What are we going to do if we come back to the physical office and we find ourselves next to automated colleagues? Or are we not going to find automated colleagues at all? Are we just going to find our normal colleagues, but with some augmented tools?
I think it's one of those things where a conversation will always have to be had with everybody back at the table, because as Anna stated, Ms. Burton stated, that we've now proven the fact that we can do a lot of our things remotely. So in collective bargaining, or in some institutions where it took, as my example yesterday, where it took 5 people to do whatever this process is. And now we've shown that, well, we've done it remotely, early retirements, we've implemented a tool, and now we can get it done with 2 people in this new tool. When this is over, now it's going to be hard to justify, well, we still needed those 3 people because we just needed those 3 people. Well, now we've proven that we've gained some efficiencies. We've still maintained some of those classifications, but we got this new tool, and it's actually improved efficiency, effectiveness, reporting. A lot of the errors that we may have had in instances are now removed. Now we got some human oversight and collaboration with the tool, and now we can kind of work at a more optimal level. And those discussions just have to be had, because I don't think we're going to go back to where we were, because we've already proven, and I've always felt this as a senior technologist, that there are a lot of things we didn't have to go to work every day to do. We just go to work because people want us at work. But now we've shown that, hey, we can really do a lot more things when folks are kind of, because we've stratified the work now. Now, some folks are doing just their job, and this person's doing just their job. So now the work's being slotted in the silos that it's supposed to go, and the information is now working across, because now we can all Zoom meet, and where you couldn't connect with somebody before, now you can connect with them because they're working remotely. And so now there's some focus on what they're doing. So I think it's going to be a discussion that will be had. It's not going to be the same. Nobody should go back to the table thinking we're going to go back to what we were. In some instances, some public facilities and organizations are leasing space because they had so much staff. Now that they don't have that expense, they can shrink down some of their expenditures, and now that increases savings to the organization. So this is going to be a myriad of discussions, and I do believe that tools just kind of just make us a little bit have a little bit more oversight and a little bit more critical about the data and the folks that we're serving. So in public safety here in the city of Gardena, we use predictive analytics to help our public safety and everything. So we're gathering all this data, and it helps us kind of predict, without being Minority Report and Tom Cruise, kind of predict where some of the activity is going to be, and then we can kind of beef up patrols in a lot of these areas and different things like that. So automation is good, but again, it's got to be tempered with the human resources and how to effectively do it. But it's going to be a part of what we're going to be doing moving forward, no question.
Oh, yeah, Anna, you raised your hand, yeah?
I did. I think one of the things to complement what we're doing is the use of technology is wonderful and it's been proven effective, but it has to be tempered with training your employees. So I know, what we can do, and we can work remotely, but I think one of the things that's been the challenge that we're starting to overcome is having managers and staff understand and be trained how to manage remote workloads. So it's, when you have somebody here, you can see them, what they're doing, but the importance of now trusting your employees and being able to work for them, with them, and supervise them remotely has been a huge challenge that we've faced very quickly, and now we're learning how to overcome. And it's put that entire new work life into perspective. Is how do we do this where before you needed to see them? I don't need to see them anymore. And it's a huge relief that, we've acknowledged this and we're overcoming it together.
I like it. And it's nice because, of course, now we're bringing a Los Angeles ICA type debate online, and it wouldn't have been as easy. I don't know. Michelle, what do you think the future holds then? I guess technology and personnel budgets are 2 separate things, so we probably needn't worry about overlap, or should we?
Oh, I think they go hand in hand for sure. As Mark mentioned, I think there are a lot of case studies going on right now, right? We're figuring out that we can maybe do more with less. And that doesn't mean that in certain areas that, maybe we find out that we do need those resources that we've traditionally had, but I think we're going to have to justify it. You know, and certainly, I think I don't think we'll go back to the way things were at all. I think even just the way we're meeting now, right, this morning, we will continue in this virtual state. I know even for us, standing up all of our public meetings that, you know, were typically held on site in City Hall, have all transitioned to virtual. And, you know, and there is a point to be made about making sure that we're inclusive and everyone has access to the technology, because I understand we don't want to create, you know, that digital divide in our community. But certainly, I think by having the flexibility of being virtual, that we are also reaching a segment of the population that, you know, was not necessarily engaged before. And we're seeing that as well. So I think that that is a benefit. But you know, again, I don't think the road has been paved yet. You know, there's still a lot to learn. There's still a lot to analyze, and we'll see what the future really holds.
Brilliant. Well, that's a nice positive note, and we are out of time actually. We had a few comments, although unfortunately they've gone directly to me, largely around security, and there was of course the issue of public order. That you know, it's another place we could even go with the debate. But I want to give people in the audience their credit, you know, for bringing them up. But this has been a fantastic panel, and you know, I'm really pleased. So Anna, Shadeequa, Mark, and Michelle, thank you very much for a fantastic panel. Please give our panel a wonderful virtual round of applause. And Michelle, if you can say hello to Matt Erickson and say thanks for December, then that's also good for you know, good as well. Good networking. See, we're networking online. It's really good. We'll see you again in the audience, and thanks a lot.
Thank you, fellas.
Pleasure to meet you all. You all are wonderful.
I know. And my neighbor, my Gardena neighbor, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. See you all around.
Thank
Bye.
you. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.
You too.
Perfect. Just moving everybody. And then there was one, or nearly there was one. Wait a minute. We've still got one on, and I'm just going to move it. But no, what a good opportunity, and great to have so many people that, you know, that would allow this. I'm just having trouble removing the second Anna, but not to worry. So this is an action-packed agenda.